Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is John Campea, and this is an open mic. Now, every day on the John Campea Show, we save a little bit of time to take live open questions from you guys. But here on the weekends and on open mic, that's all we do is just take live open questions. So, hey, I'm going to mention something here. You might notice... Now, nobody likes new things, I understand that, but you might notice I'm testing out a different microphone. I do love playing with new gear. I'm a little bit of a tech head that you guys know. So I just got in this new microphone. I just wanted to try it out today. It's a very different microphone from my my podcaster mic that you can see over here. But I just thought I'd test out today's show with it. So come along for the ride, guys, as we just play with new mics. All right, guys. Well, like I said, we've got a lot of live questions to get to, so let's not waste any time and jump into the open mic live questions today. And today, we are going to start with, where are we at? Okay, Ryan Lohner writes, Fast and the Furious 6, easily, so that's right, Ryan, because you've been watching the Fast and the Furious movies lately. Fast and the Furious 6, easily one of the best ones. Let's forget about making any sense and just go full Matthew Riley. And good to see they learned a lesson from Lost about why you don't fridge Michelle Rodriguez. I love Fast and Furious 6. Love that movie. Like, Fast and Furious for me is like, I don't know if you guys remember me talking about this before, but I hated Fast and Furious 1, 2, and 3. Hated those movies. I thought they were terrible. And I begrudgingly went to go see Fast and Furious 4. And then I was in Fast and Furious 4 and I'm like, hey, this movie's not bad. That was okay. That was all right. And then I saw 5 and loved it. And I saw 6 and I loved it. And I saw, anyway, so that's my thing. So I'm glad you've been getting caught up there, Ryan. And yes, you could, by 6, actually kind of by 5, but really by 6, Fast and Furious's transformation from being whatever kind of movies they were in 1 through 3 to just being hey, our identity is we are a crazy, silly, balls to the wall kind of wild ride. That's all we're going to be. And they fully embraced it, and it worked for them. It actually worked really well, as a matter of fact. So, yeah, I kind of dig it now. Okay, let's move on here. Next one. Snake Jerusalem writes, is Ezra Miller aware DC moved on from a dark tone? Yeah. So we're going to talk about this more on the John Campea Show on Monday, I'm sure. But this news came out that how much of a mess is the Flash in that now they got Ezra Miller is going to try taking a shot at writing the script, and he wants to go darker tone with Flash in a universe that has been moving away from that you had an Aquaman that was a $1.1 billion hit and a Shazam movie that's going to be a hit too, that's clearly going more for the, the more entertaining, the more lighter tone. Look, tone has never been the problem with DC. Tone, I've always insisted that the tone with the DC films has never been the problem. Because, hell, nobody complained when The Dark Knight had the dark tone, but I don't know, man. Someone just better give Ezra Miller... I don't think Ezra Miller is going to be the Flash. I'll just be straight up. I think this is just a last desperate attempt to stay working with them, and I just don't know that it's going to work. We'll wait and see. We'll talk about more about it on Monday. Apex Caliber writes, does Nebula surviving the snap mock Thanos because after everything he ends up with Nebula, who tried to kill him, while he had to sacrifice Gamora? I don't know about that. I mean, everybody... There was a 50-50 coin flip. It's not like there was only a 5% chance that Nebula would survive the snap and then she survived the snap. So I don't know. I mean, I'm sure if Thanos sits down to think about it, maybe, but with half the universe surviving, I'm sure there were a lot of people that survived the snap that Thanos would have just as preferred to have them die. And maybe Gamora is one of them, or maybe Nebula is one of them. There's still this theory up there that a lot of people are holding on to this theory, this idea that Thanos regrets killing Gamora. No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. He worked too long, too hard. He didn't even stop to think about it. Like when he realized, I got to kill Gamora. Well, that sucks. And I'm going to be really sad, but he didn't, no hesitation. He didn't say, okay, let me go back to my ship and think about this for a few days. No. He's just like, that's what I got to do. Okay. Grabs her, throws her off the cliff. And at the end of Infinity War, he's just sitting there and he grins like he's happy. There's this big theory going around that he's going to be, really torn up that he killed Gamora and he's going to regret it and he's going to want to undo the snap. No, he's not. No way he's going to do that. All right. Ryan Lohner follows up with, I wish I could have been there in theaters for Jason Statham out of freak. Oh, you're talking about in Fast 6. When Jason Statham comes out of nowhere and hashtag Han had it coming, he kills their friend Han. That was a wow moment for sure. Being in theaters and seeing that moment in the film was absolutely a wow moment. And I'm one of the guys that I didn't know Jason Statham was popping up in it. There were some people that knew that in advance, and I didn't. So when I was in the theater and I saw Statham pop up, I'm like, what? I thought I was awesome. It was so great. I mean, I didn't even, look, I'm not a big fan of the Han character. I don't really hate Han. I don't really believe Han had it coming. That's just a joke. But to be honest with you, I never cared much about the character. He was not even a secondary character. He was like a third level character. I didn't even really care that the character had been killed. I was just super stoked to see Jason Statham there. You know what I mean? So that was me. All right. Apex Caliber writes, does and should James Gunn include Captain Marvel and Guardians of the Galaxy 3? Oh, who knows? There's no answer. I mean, it all depends on the story. Everybody wants to put characters before story. Characters are there to serve the story. So should James Gunn include Captain Marvel and Guardians of the Galaxy? Well, that really all depends on what his story is. I don't think so, though. Like, Captain Marvel is a huge bona fide standalone hit. I don't think you need to put her in Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, it's not like the Iron Man and Spider-Man Homecoming thing where, look, it was the third reboot of Spider-Man. This is our third guy playing Spider-Man in less than 10 years. And it's new into the MCU. So they brought in an Iron Man character just for a little bit to kind of help people transition over. Captain Marvel's not in that situation. Captain Marvel's now got her own big hit film. The Guardians of the Galaxy are already big hits. So I don't see why there would be any need to, but it doesn't matter whether we think in principle they should. It's all about the story. Does James Gunn's story require Captain Marvel? And if not, then you don't compromise the story just to serve a character. You know what I mean? Anyway, that's just my thoughts on that. ZOMG Ruler writes, you hear Rotten Tomatoes are going to try and legitimize audience scores. Yes, and they should try. I just don't know how you do it. I don't know that there's any actual real practical way that they can actually make it so viewer scores are legitimate. Now, I mean, the only way I can think about it, but even then this is a workaround, is that, hey, you can register a review, but you have to upload. Now we're getting into some Cinemia stuff here, but the only way I can possibly see them legitimizing viewer reviews is if when you try to submit a review on Rotten Tomatoes and give a score, you have to upload a picture of you, of your ID, and your movie ticket. A picture of you holding your ID and holding your movie ticket. And even that, you can work around that. There would be workarounds that. Like if I didn't see a movie and I wanted to put a review, okay, put up a picture of me with my review and then Photoshop in a fake ticket. I mean, you'd have to go through some hassle to do that, granted, but the trolls who want to review bomb movies will go to a lot of, they'll go to a lot of lengths to try to ruin things for people. But honestly, anything short of that, there's just no way to even pretend like the reviews are legitimate. Again, the only thing I can see them doing, and then you got to have somebody, like an actual person at Rotten Tomatoes, manually go through to make sure, yep, that's that guy in the ID, and there's their movie ticket. Okay, approve that review. Approve that review. So you got to actually have staff to do that. I don't know, it'd be hard. But again, I don't see any way to legitimize online viewer reviews for a site like Rotten Tomatoes, short of uploading you with your ID and a copy of your ticket. That's the only way I see it happening. Otherwise, there's just no way to say that somebody registering a review of a movie actually even saw the movie. There's just no way to know. So I applaud them for trying to legitimize it, but you either got to go to an extreme or you just got to get rid of it. That's my opinion at any rate. Okay. KW Garrett 83 writes, deal or no deal? Jennifer Garner offers you a one-on-one candlelit dinner with her, but in exchange, you can never see Endgame. Like ever. Movies come and go. There have been like Spider-Man Far From Home is going to be the 23rd movie in the MCU. And there will be 23 more. As long as people can tell me what happened in Endgame, I'll take the dinner with Jennifer Garner. I'll take the dinner because, I mean, Jennifer Garner is one of my favorite actresses. How many chances are you going to get in your lifetime to sit down and have dinner with one of your favorite actors or actresses, right? So honestly, I'll take the dinner. That's a once in a lifetime opportunity. I'll get to watch lots of other Marvel movies. I'm just being honest here. I think I would take the dinner with Jennifer Garner. I think that would be really great. That's a once in a lifetime experience. Let's see here. Mike Hill writes, I have a theory about Endgame. Prepare to have your mind blown. So when we see Steve carrying the coffin, I think it's a foreshadowing of his death, like a metaphor, probably reading too much into it, definitely reading too much into it. Look, everybody thinks there's a chance that Captain America dies in this movie. Everybody thinks, even I think there is a legitimate chance that Captain America dies in this movie. Now, you know me again. Everybody said he was going to die in Winter Soldier. I said, no, he's not, and he didn't. Everybody said he was going to die in Civil War. I said, no, he's not, and he didn't. Then everybody said he was going to die in Infinity War, and I said, no, he's not, and he didn't. But even I am saying, I think there's a legitimate chance that he does die in this one. Like, not just 1 in 100, I mean a legitimate chance he dies. I think there's a legitimate chance he dies. So everybody thinks there's at least a chance. But is him carrying the coffin meant to be a foreshadowing of that? No. I think that, look, that those flashback sequences, to say that him carrying the coffin is a foreshadowing of that is to say that Thor's flashback is foreshadowing that Odin comes back to help him. Is that what's going to happen? I don't know. Odin may come back too, but I doubt it. So I think that was just a emotional, heavy moment for Captain America in the history of the Captain America films. So they showed a very heavy moment for him. Like the flashbacks in the trailer were about reflecting on things that people have lost. Thor lost Asgard, so we saw Asgard, and he lost his father, the All-Father Odin. We had Cap. The biggest thing he lost as a result of all of his sacrifice in being a hero was Peggy and a life with Peggy. So I just think those flashbacks were reminding us of what they have lost. I really don't think it was foreshadowing anything. And it's not like there isn't everybody on the planet kind of already having a presumptive position that they think Captain America is going to die anyway. So yeah, look, the theory that he's going to die, super popular theory. But that they specifically put that in the trailer to foreshadow his death, I don't think so. Because if you look at what they do with the other characters, I think it's just a reminder of what it is they have lost in the course of being a hero. Not just in the course of Infinity War, but in the course of being a hero. And that's kind of how I interpreted that at any rate, Mike. All right. Apex Caliber writes, Captain Marvel passed 200 million domestic, 600 million worldwide. Trolls keep weeping, or trolls weep. Yeah, I mean... It is, look, it's now you're getting in the territory that I thought Captain Marvel would finish at. I said Captain Marvel would come in between $600 and $700 million worldwide when it was all said and done. Maybe as high as 800. Maybe as high as 800. Well, we're not even through the second weekend, and the movie's already at 600 million worldwide. So I'm going to think maybe my guess is going to end up being a little bit short. I still don't know that it's going to get to $1 billion, though. I still have my doubts that it's going to get to $1 billion. We'll see where it sits after this weekend, but I still don't think Captain Marvel's going to make $1 billion. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But yeah, the success of this film is like crazy stupid. Okay, Aaron H. writes, just watch Silver Linings Playbook. It's amazing. Oh, it's a very good movie. Very, very good movie. I remember having some debate with my friends because it was nominated for Best Picture. And I was fine with it being, like, I liked it so much. I totally was good with it having a Best Picture nomination. I didn't think it deserved to win the Best Picture. And I had some friends of mine that were like outraged that I didn't think it should win Best Picture. I'm like, no, it's really good. It's great. And it is great. Robert De Niro's fantastic in it. Jennifer Lawrence is one of the best talents on the planet. Bradley Cooper's fantastic. I mean, it's a wonderful movie. It's got a lot of heart and it's got a lot of humor, and I really enjoyed it. I'm glad you did too, Aaron. All right. Adam Martinez writes, seen the Endgame Empire covers. Thanos mad. I saw the one. I haven't seen the other ones, but I saw the one with Thanos, which makes me go, huh. is there going to be more Thanos in this movie than we think? Because remember, me and Rob both, neither of us think that there's going to be a hell of a lot of Thanos in this movie. I actually think Thanos plays a relatively small part in the movie. I actually think maybe Thanos gets dealt with in the first act. I don't know this. Nobody's told me this. I'm just speculating, right? But having him front and center on the Empire cover, which doesn't necessarily mean anything, but it does make me go, maybe he plays a little bit of a bigger role. I don't know, but I haven't seen the other ones yet. I still got to see them. Magic K writes, Ezra Miller probably already quit the role, Flash. The script thing, just an excuse to cover up the truth. I don't know. It's possible. Look, this Flash thing has been a hot, bloody mess. They've gone through 3 or 4 different sets of directors. They've gone through several sets of writers. Now they're saying they're going to rewrite the script again. They was supposed to be in theaters already, let alone shooting, let alone now. We don't even know when or if it's ever going to shoot. And now you've got the actor of the movie, who is not a screenwriter per se, going to take a crack at writing the script. How big of a bloody mess is this film in? And this is a mess that predates Walter Hamada. This goes way before Walter Hamada. So this is a mess that Walter Hamada came in and inherited. So I hope he can figure out a way to get the ship straightened out with this Flash situation, but it looks like it's an utter chaos. It looks like it's an utter chaos, which really sucks because they're on such a nice little roll right now. Like with Aquaman being such a big hit, Shazam looks like it's going to be a big hit, and it looks so much fun. I cannot wait to see this movie next week. And it would be a shame if this Flash thing ends up being like a cog or a wrench in the gears. Here's hoping they get it worked out. Okay. Orange Hand writes, ever see The Island with Ewan McGregor and Scarlett Johansson? The soundtrack is good. It's been used in other movies and trailers. Yeah, and it was actually directed by Michael Bay. A lot of people don't realize that. Michael Bay directed that. I'm not all that impressed with The Island. I didn't think it was terrible. I thought it was okay. But not... I struggle to say that it's even a good movie. At most, I'd say it's okay. It's certainly not great, in my opinion. It's certainly not great. I'm not even sure I'd say it's good. At best, I would say it's okay. But it did have a really good soundtrack, Orange Hand. Of that, absolutely. Let's see. Hashtag Squid Productions writes, John, have you seen Ryan Hurst as TWD's Beta? Well, Ryan Hurst, of course, played Ope in Sons of Anarchy, he was my favorite character in Sons of Anarchy. Oh, I love that show. One of my top 3 all-time favorite TV shows. TWD's Beta. I have no idea what we're talking about, hashtag. Sorry, man. Again, guys, please try. Sometimes I can just figure off the top of my head what an acronym is. If you use acronyms, there's a chance I may not know what we're talking about, so I can't really answer the question, hashtag. Sorry about that. Godzilla Love Campea writes, Ned, where's my sister? I wish you good fortune in the wars coming, and now it begins. No, now it ends. Sword fight. That is from Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones. And actually, that saying, I wish you good fortune in the wars to come and the wars coming. That phrase is actually used many times. I think off the top of my head, I can think of like 3 or 4 times that phrase, I wish you good fortunes in the wars to come. I think that phrase has been used a number of times. That's a t-shirt I would like. I wish you good fortune in the wars to come. It's an awesome saying. I can't remember the exact situation of that one. It might be the one where Ned Stark is young and he's going to try to get his sister. I mean, that would make most sense, but it's a really great saying. More people should use it. JP writes, would Denzel do Black Panther 2 in any role? Denzel Washington is an actor. He gets paid to act. If there's a role that's right for him, fine. But remember, movies are not there to serve actors. Actors are there to serve movies. So if the story has a role in it and Denzel would be good for it, I'm sure they would get him and I'm sure he would do it. Yeah, I'm sure he would do it. Why wouldn't he? Javier Belmer writes, greetings from Spain. Well, hello, Javier. Celebrating my mom's birthday. That's awesome. Happy birthday to your mom, man. Had a wonderful day, ending on an evening higher note with Captain Marvel dubbed so she can follow. Well, that's awesome. I don't know what it is about us as sons. I love taking my mom to the movies. I love it. I love taking my mom to the movies. Actually, my last trip to Canada, I think I took her to 3. Like, I know I took her to see Aquaman, and I took her to see Bumblebee, and I might have gone to see one more with her. And like, a 1.5 week visit. I love taking my mom to see movies. I just love it. So that's awesome. That's your mom's birthday. It's awesome you're being a good son and taking her out to the movies, particularly a good movie like Captain Marvel. And just wish your mom a happy birthday for me, Javier. That's great. Okay. Let's move on here. Andrew DeLeon writes, with James Gunn's situation allowing him to direct both DC and a Marvel film, does this open the door for other directors in either studio to cross back and forth? Good for all parties involved, no? There's never been a rule that says you can't. That's the thing. There's never been a rule that says you can't. There may have been at one time in old Hollywood, but that's now what's the law? Like, that's anti-competitive, and I don't think you can do that now. So there's, technically speaking, other than busy schedule, there's never been anything stopping a director from doing a Marvel movie and doing a DC movie, other than schedule. Like, if the Russo brothers, for instance, have just been working nonstop for 5 years on the Marvel stuff, right? They've just been working nonstop for 5 years. So there's never been a window of time for them to do something else, let alone a DC movie. But theoretically speaking, like Peyton Reed, the director of the Ant-Man films, there's nothing stopping Peyton Reed from going and directing a DC film. I'll be honest with you, I'm a little bit surprised that it's taken something as extreme as this James Gunn situation. And for those of you who did not hear, James Gunn is back. He's directing Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and he's still directing Suicide Squad 2. He's going to do Suicide Squad 2 first. Then once that's wrapped, then he'll go and they'll begin production on Guardians of the Galaxy 3. It's crazy to me to think that it's taken a situation as extreme as the James Gunn situation for this to happen, to have a director doing both. I think it's great. I think it's awesome. And I cannot wait to see Suicide Squad 2 directed by James Gunn and a Guardians of the Galaxy 3 directed by James Gunn. All right. Ryan Lohner writes, John, at the start of yesterday's video, not much movie news today, as usual for Fridays. Yeah, that's what I said. I'm not quite sure what your point, though, is, Ryan, but that is what I said, indeed. All right, Eric DeRigi writes, your Infinity Watch and stones that affect these heroes. Your Infinity Watch and stones that affect these heroes. Scarlet Witch, Mind, Gamora, Soul, Captain Marvel, Space, Star-Lord, Power, Strange Time, Loki, Reality. These stones were poignant in their respective movies. Yeah, and I offered up a theory the other day. First of all, you're absolutely right. I offered up a theory the other day. And I don't believe this theory. I'm just saying it's a theory, okay? I offered up a theory that maybe the Infinity Stones are useless now. Maybe to do something as monumental as wipe out half the life in the universe, it may have not only fried the gauntlet, it might have fried the stones. Who knows? Maybe they don't work anymore. I don't know. But if the Avengers find they can't use the Infinity Stones to undo things, my one theory is that, and that I said the other day, was that what if using the power signature of those stones as represented in these different characters and bringing them together causes the power of the stones to be able to manifest again. Again, wild way out there in left field theory. I don't even believe it myself. But there could be something to that because, yes, there's a couple of characters where their power directly comes from an Infinity Stone. Scarlet Witch's power comes directly from an Infinity Stone. Captain Marvel's power came indirectly from an Infinity Stone. Doctor Strange, Doctor Strange's a master of the mystic arts with or without the Eye of Agamotto, so it doesn't come from, but he wielded the stone. Loki wielded a stone. But you've got two characters, and if you want to count Vision's another one whose life and power was derived from an Infinity Stone in his head, right? The Mind Stone. So you had Scarlet Witch, Captain Marvel, and Vision, all characters whose powers derived directly from Infinity Stones. That might come into play. I don't know how, I don't know where, and I don't really think it will, but I'm just saying maybe it could at some point. So anyway, good observation, Eric. Okay. Brett Strange writes, sat down with my buddies this week and watched the Lord of the Rings trilogy for the first time. Oh, nice. And was blown away. How do you rank the trilogy? Well, they're basically 1A and 1B. They're all fantastic. All three of them were nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards. Of course, Lord of the Rings: Return of the King won Best Picture at the Academy Awards and won 10 other Oscars as well. No other film in cinematic history has ever won more than 11 Academy Awards, and that's how many that Lord of the Rings: Return of the King won. I would rank them in order. Reverse order. I would rank Return of the King was the best, Two Towers was the second best, and Fellowship of the Ring was the third best, but you could sort those in any order. It doesn't matter. And I am so jealous, Brent, that you got to watch Lord of the Rings for the first time, something I will never be able to do for the rest of my life. I can never watch Lord of the Rings for the first time again like you did. Very jealous. All right. Okay. Brett follows up with, he loved Lord of the Rings so much, he asked twice. Sat down with my buddies this week and watched Lord of the Rings trilogy for the first time and was blown away. How do you rank the trilogy? I still rank them. Return of the King, Two Towers, Fellowship of the Ring, all awesome. They're not like 1, 2, and 3. They're 1, 1A and 1B. I mean, they're just so great. The Lord of the Rings are an amazing thing. What a great way to spend a weekend binge watching Lord of the Rings. Okay, let's see. Darklock 63 writes, had Fury paged Captain Marvel during the Chitauri invasion, would she even have made it in time? Oh, probably not. As a matter of fact, probably not. She probably wouldn't have made it in time. Because, I mean, look, apparently it took maybe a week or more for her to get there after he paged her at the end of Infinity War, right? Like, it took her a while to get there. So she probably wouldn't have made it on time. My theory about the whole pager thing, why didn't he page her during the events of the first Avenger, is that, well, he'd been carrying around this pager for 20 years. He probably didn't keep it on him every day now. And when the Chitauri invasion happened, he's up in a helicarrier. It's like, well, crap, I wish I had my pager, but he didn't have it. And then since then, he's been carrying it around with him ever since. That's my theory at any rate. Anmol Bajpai writes, my Marvel marathon, Captain Marvel, Iron Man, Thor, Captain America 1, Avengers 1, Iron Man 3, Cap 2, Guardians of the Galaxy, Avengers 2, Cap 3, Ant-Man 2, Thor 3, Avengers 3, and then going into Endgame. I know it's a lot, but Captain Marvel establishes key spoiler elements which follow throughout the series and lead up to its post-credit scene, and you get Cap, Tony, Thor story with Ragnarok leading into Avengers 3. I think those films are a great pre-game endgame. I like that. They're pre-game endgame. And then he finishes up with, thanks for all you do, John. You're a great pal to talk movies ever since the AMC Closet days. Well, thanks so much, man. I really appreciate that. Okay, let's digest this. First of all, you know, we talked the other day, Anmol, about me and Rob kind of broke down what we thought are the essential movies that you must watch before seeing Endgame. Now, I went with the approach that I really think there's only one you have to see in order to watch Endgame, and that's Infinity War. Rob took a more holistic approach, and he suggested 5 or 6 films that you need to watch. You are taking a much more in-depth look. The reality is, though, if you've got the time, sitting down and going through the entire Marvel catalog would be a great thing to do leading into Endgame, right? Like going through the entire thing would be a great thing to do. Absolutely. And I like the ones you're going through here, man. Like, I'm not a big fan of, you didn't put in Iron Man 2, but you did put in, you didn't even put in Iron Man 3. Good call. Okay. And you're right about Captain Marvel. See, one of the things that I said, Anmol, coming out of Captain Marvel was, this is a movie that, and I won't explain how for some of you who still may have not seen it, but I said this is a movie that connects a lot of dots. And for those of you who have seen the movie, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But there are a number of dots that they connect in that movie that make it a really good movie to see going into Endgame. But I still don't believe it's a movie you must see. Like, I think you can go into Endgame and watch it without having seen Captain Marvel, and you'll be able to follow along with what's going on. Even when Carol Danvers appears, I still think they'll catch you up pretty quick. So I don't think Captain Marvel is an essential film to watch prior to watching Endgame, but it'll probably add another couple of layers of appreciation you'll have if you do. So that's kind of the way I approach that, man. But hey, man, good marathon to build up to Endgame. We are getting so close. We're just over a month away now from Endgame hitting. I hope I'm seeing it in 2 weeks. I don't know that for sure, but my fingers are crossed that 2 weeks from today, I'm going to be sitting down watching Endgame. I'll let you know if that's happening for sure, but I'm really stoked about it. So thanks for following along, and Mall, ever since the AMC Closet days. Good to have you here, man. All right. Ryan Lohner writes, ever see Denzel's movie Ricochet? Great concept, insanely goofy execution. I did. I liked Ricochet. If I'm thinking of the right, I hope I'm thinking of the right movie. I liked Ricochet. I had fun with that movie. And you're right. It is kind of goofy, but I thought that played into it. You know what? Now I'm doubting that I'm thinking of the right movie. Give me a second here. There is a possibility here I'm thinking of the wrong movie, which happens sometime when you watch as many movies as I do. Okay, let's see here. Is this the right movie I'm thinking about? So what I'm thinking about was like late 80s, early 90s with Jonathan Lithgow. Hold a second. Why is this taking forever to load? There it is. Okay. So, yes. Sorry, I said late 80s. It was 1991 that it came out, and it was Jonathan Lithgow and Denzel Washington. I forgot Ice-T was in that. Kevin Pollak, who I really love Kevin Pollak. Anyway, forgot all about that. Anyway, yeah, I had fun with it. It is not, not a great movie, but you're right. It is kind of serious concept, goofy execution, but I loved anything from that era with Jonathan Lithgow in it, particularly when he played villains. I loved, like when when Mr. Henderson from Harry and the Hendersons in that era, because I was a kid, was playing villains, I got a big kick out of it. So anyway, that was just me. Okay, Patrick Conway writes, Empire hyping up OG6 Avengers versus Thanos, can't wait. Yeah, again, I wonder if that means it. No, I've only seen the one cover. I have not seen the Thanos cover. I mean, the Thanos cover is the only one I've seen. I haven't seen the other ones, but everything about Endgame right now is hyping us up, and hyping us up a lot. Okay, Patrick follows up. Out of the Ant-Man and the Wasp and Captain Marvel, I feel Ant-Man and the Wasp is more vital to Avengers 4. Huh. Okay, you know what? I'm going to agree. I think Captain Marvel is the better movie, and I like Ant-Man and the Wasp. I like Ant-Man too. But I think Captain Marvel's the better movie. But you know what? Now that you're probably right, because it's not just the ending of the movie, which the ending of Ant-Man 2 is pivotal to the events of Endgame. But it's not just that. There's also a lot of theories explained, mechanics of quantum realm and alternate realities and stuff like that they go into in this movie in Ant-Man and the Wasp that doesn't necessarily have the same in Captain Marvel. So, while I will say I think Captain Marvel's the better movie, I'm going to side with you on this that actually Ant-Man 2 is probably more essential to watch than Captain Marvel is going into Endgame. It's a really good point. Okay. Suthius85 writes, hey, Mr. C, on the topic of movies loved by many, but not by a few, or maybe even just me on this, I have to say that it's the Godfather Trilogy. I recognize them as good/great movies, but I just find them boring, not my cup of tea. And you know what, Suthius? That they are arguably the greatest films ever made. But the truth is, all film is subjective. And you're kind of like me with the Godfather when it comes to Blade Runner, the original Blade Runner. Like, I recognize that Blade Runner is a pivotal, momentous sci-fi movie that is considered classic and is beloved by many. I recognize and acknowledge all of that. But it has never worked for me. I don't take away from its place in cinema history. I'm just saying that when I watch it, because all film is subjective, it's one of those films that everybody loves that I just wasn't into all that much. That's just what it is. And no matter how good we think a movie is, there are going to be people who just honestly sat down and watched it and it didn't work for them. No matter how bad we think a movie is, there's going to be people that just honestly sat down and it did work for them. And it's going to vary all the time because each film hits each of us in a unique way. And The Godfather are three of the greatest films, certainly one of the greatest trilogies of all time, particularly 1 and 2. Which, I mean, there's often a big argument, which movie is the greatest movie of all time? Godfather 1 or Godfather 2? It's like no other movies are in the discussion for some people. It's just either Godfather 1 or Godfather 2, and they both won Best Picture at the Academy Awards. Like Lord of the Rings, the Godfather Trilogy was nominated for Best Picture for all 3 films, but unlike Lord of the Rings, Godfather actually won it twice. Godfather 1 won Best Picture, Godfather 2 won Best Picture. That's quite an accomplishment, ladies and gentlemen. That is quite an accomplishment. But you know what? That doesn't mean you have to like it, nor does it mean that it would necessarily have worked for you. And hey, man, that's just the way it is. That's the beauty. That's the beauty of the subjectivity of film, is that it hits us all differently and you have nothing to apologize for. You watched it, it didn't work for you. It didn't work for you. But it just highlights again that that's how movies are, man. And that's the best thing about the movies. Anyway, Apex Caliber writes, should the MCU do Adam Warlock differently? Well, right now they haven't done Adam Warlock at all. So I'm not quite sure what it is you're asking, Apex. Like, should they do him differently? Well, differently from what? They haven't done him in any way yet. And then different from the comics? Well, in which way? Because the comics have done him different ways over the years too. So I'm not quite sure what your baseline is. That's the problem, Apex. I'm not quite sure what your baseline is for saying, should they do him differently compared to what? Like, I'm just not sure what it is we're asking. First of all, should they even do Adam Warlock? I mean, that's the first question. Should they do him at all? But it looks like that's something that James Gunn would like to do, but I don't know if he's going to do it in Guardians 3 or not. We'll have to wait and find out. All right, I'm upset writes, I don't get why people are hoping Sony sells Superman, or Spider-Man, I should say. They gave us effing Spider-Verse. Not everything Marvel has to be like the MCU. Oh, I agree. I totally want, the same way I wanted the X-Men to stay in the hands of Fox, and unfortunately, you know, Marvel got them back, but whatever, I'm sure Kevin Feige's going to do a great job with them because that's what Kevin Feige does. I definitely would love Spider-Man to stay in the hands of Sony. Because, yeah, they just give us, like, Spider-Verse. Look, it's not a popular opinion, but the best comic book movie of the year last year was not a Marvel film. The best comic book movie of the year last year was a Sony movie. And it was Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. You may disagree, and that's cool. That's fine. But I was the guy who I didn't even like the idea of this movie, and I didn't like the look of the first trailer, and I didn't even think they should have made it. And I was blown away by Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Blown away. Like, completely floored by that movie. Cannot believe it. The best comic book movie of the year was neither a DC or a Marvel film. It was a Sony film. And I would love for them to keep Spider-Man. In like some way and like have some influence over how they have, a lot of people try to deny this, but the fact is Sony has a lot of influence over what Spider-Man does in the MCU. Some people try to deny that, but sorry, that's the actual fact. They have a lot of veto power over what Spider-Man can and cannot do in the Marvel films. It's actually been a very good partnership because I think the way they've used Spider-Man with both Marvel and Sony's influence in the movies has been incredible. So anyway, I agree. I would love to see him stay over there. Charles A. writes, Ant-Man jumps a pencil. Is this fight on Earth? Probably. I mean, like you said, it's a pencil. So it's most likely on Earth. The background looks a little bit like Titan did during the big fight in Infinity War, but it's not Titan. So yeah, I got to guess that is on Earth. Charles A. says, have you seen Triple Frontier? I still haven't watched it yet. I've been swamped. I've just been swamped. I've watched very little this week, so no, I have not had a chance to see Triple Frontier yet. But I want to because it's got Ben Affleck in it. Actually, it's got a great cast in it overall. And I'm hearing okay things about it. Like, I'm not hearing amazing things about it, but I'm hearing pretty solid things. So I do want to check it out. I just haven't had a chance to see it yet. Okay, Joshua Howard writes, I personally feel it will be a bit of a plot hole if Bruce doesn't at least wonder if Betty Ross survived the snap. Kind of bothers me she is ignored. I don't know. Is it a plot hole? I don't think so. Leaving something out is not a plot hole. That's not what a plot hole is. A plot hole is a functional, the best way I heard it described to me once is a functional dysfunction that throws off the credibility of the storytelling. Look, I have 14 ex-girlfriends, or 24 or 34, I don't know. But I have ex-girlfriends that I appreciate very much as people, and they're wonderful human beings, but do you hear me mentioning them all the time? No. I don't know if he doesn't mention or whatever an ex. I don't think that constitutes a plot hole. I just don't, because it's been years. I mean, he moved on. Now, I will say this though. If we get to see a scene with Bruce and Thunderbolt Ross, which by the way, I don't know if Thunderbolt Ross got dusted or not. But if we get to see a scene between Bruce and Thunderbolt Ross and they still don't mention Betty, okay, then that's a different story, because that specific circumstance, Thunderbolt Ross, whose daughter is Betty, Bruce, who was a former love flame of Betty, if they're in the same room together and that doesn't come up, that presents a little bit of an inconsistency to me. But otherwise, yeah, I don't see it. I don't see it, to be honest with you, Joshua. Jaron Morris writes, was there ever a moment in your first sit down watching The Great Supernatural you thought, I don't know how the brothers going to make it out of this? Oh, gosh, yeah, many times. Many times. And that's kind of the thing that always keeps you guessing and keeps you on the edge of your seat with that show. I really like the way they do that, whether it's when they're first confront the yellow-eyed demon, or they first confront Lucifer or Michael or the Leviathan or Amara or a Crowley or whatever. Like when they face these demons of supreme powers, like how they get out of this? I mean, it happens all the time. And it's one of the things that keeps me completely hooked on the show. And I think I'm actually one episode behind. I think I'm a little behind on Supernatural. I think I get caught up on the next one. All right. Thanks for that, Jaron. Keep watching Supernatural. All right. Suthius85 writes, part 1 and 2. Throughout the entire MCU, Loki has proclaimed himself as the rightful king of Asgard. But in Infinity War, he accepts that he's the son of a frost giant, the son of Jotunheim, a son of Jotunheim. Part 2. He then proclaims himself to be the rightful king of Jotunheim, but at the same time proud to be an Odin's son. I love that about him. Love that about his character. Can't wait to see his series. Well, and theoretically speaking, you're right. He is correct to say he's the rightful king of Jotunheim. He is the son of the dead king. He killed the dead king, his real father. He killed him, of course, in an attempt to impress and ingratiate himself to his adopted father that he sees as his true father, Odin. Remember, he loves Odin. Like in the midst, this is one of the things that I love about the Loki character and about the Thor storyline. In the midst of all the nonsense, Loki actually loves Odin. He's mad as hell. He's bitter. There's a lot of animosity. There's a lot of conflict. True, fathers and sons, ladies and gentlemen. But at the heart of it, he loves Odin and has never wanted. This is one of the things that makes Loki such a fascinating character to me. The heart-pounding motivation, a lot of people think is power. But when you really look at Loki, it's not. It's always been about the approval and pride of his father. That's what he's wanted more than anything else. And I think he wanted to rule Asgard as a way to make his father proud. I think he wanted to kind of conquer Earth just as a stick it to his dad, because deep down, all he's ever wanted is his dad's approval. And there's something about that. That's why I love Loki. A lot of people love Loki for different reasons, because he's quite funny at times. He makes a good foil, all that kind of stuff. But to me, it's the motivations of the character that has always attracted me to him the most. And that's just what I love about him. And you're right, the whole Jotunheim thing it's literally true. He is the actual born son of the king of Jotunheim, and Laufey, it was the king's name, and he killed Laufey to impress who he considers to be his true father, Odin. It's beautiful storytelling. I mean, what Kenneth Branagh, who directed the first Thor, did to set up that character, I think is magnificent. Anyway, nice observation, Suthius. Jeff Crow writes, could Hulk/Banner be with Thor and Carol since he isn't in the hangar scene in the trailer? The three strongest Avengers on a mission, or he just isn't in the scene, much like any of the trailers. First of all, it's a good observation, Jeff. Here was what was my first thought. My first reaction was that much like when Scott at the end of Ant-Man goes into the quantum realm, that you had everybody else outside controlling the machinery, right? My guess, and I have nothing to base this on, it's just an initial guess. My guess is, as we see all the Avengers, or at least a number of the Avengers, marching off in these quantum realm suits, that Bruce is going to be the one operating the machinery. That Bruce is going to be the one at mission control. That was my guess. Whether or not that turns out to be true, I don't know. But that was always my guess. So I'm going to guess that he's not off with Thor and Captain Marvel. I think he's there just kind of like mission control. You know, he's mission control for the mission. Maybe not. It would be really cool to see Thor, Captain Marvel, and Hulk together fighting somebody. I'm getting a little bit of a stiffy just thinking about it. I'm not going to lie. It's moving. It's moving a little bit just thinking about that. It's an incredible thought. Okay, Jeff, thanks for sharing that. TMI, guys, TMI. Brandon writes, Stan Lee weds Tony and Pepper. Who cut onions? Oh my God, can you imagine that? If they actually have in the movie the Tony and Pepper wedding and the person officiating the wedding is Stan Lee. I hadn't even thought about that, Brandon. That's brilliant. Who cut onions? You're damn right. It's going to be cry time. So much cry time. Whether it's going to be with Hawkeye with his kids dying or Stanley. That's a great idea. I love that. I hope that's what happens. I totally hope that's what happens. All right. Raymond Verada writes, Ezra Miller is reportedly writing a darker Flash script. Do we want him to tie in the loose ends from Batman versus Superman to bring closure to the DCEU or start fresh? Look, I'll be honest with you. To me, this just reeks of desperation. And I'll also be honest with you, I don't think his scripts, first of all, he's not a screenwriter per se. So why does he get to write a script for it? I'm not sure. The fact that they're so desperate at this point that they're letting Ezra Miller write the script, I don't know, man. I'm an Ezra Miller fan. I love his incarnation of the Flash in Justice League. But again, man, I just don't know. Like, there's so much about this situation that just feels like chaos. It feels like 5 years ago DC or 4 years ago DC, how they're handling this. Again, this is a mess that predates Walter Hamada. Maybe he's just trying to give them a few swings at the bat to get straightened out, but I just don't know. And even the fact that they're talking about going darker when the Flash is clearly the lightest hearted character they have, especially when you look at the way they did him in the movie. They have a lot of potential to make a really good, fun, entertaining film. And that's the way the entire MC or the entire DCU is going. So I don't know, man, Raymond, it just reeks of chaos. It just feels like it feels like the inmates are running the asylum. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Again, we'll talk more about it on Monday, but will he tie things in? I don't know what they're going to do. All I care about is if they make a good movie. And this move does not reek of confidence to me. This move does not reek of confidence to me, which is completely the opposite of everything they did with Aquaman reeked of confidence. Everything they're doing with Shazam reeks of confidence. This move with Flash does anything but reek of confidence, but it just reeks. Okay. Dim5 writes, why am I forgetting Ant-Man and the Wasp already? Well, I mean, it came right after Infinity War, right? So there's going to be a little bit of overwash with that because we're just still all talking about that. Ant-Man and the Wasp was a small scale. One of the things I love about Ant-Man and the Wasp and both Ant-Man movies is that they're smaller scale films. And that's what you got to do if you're the MCU. Not every movie can be about saving the world or saving the universe. You got to save the girl, or you got to save the family, or you got to save the neighborhood, or maybe you got to save the city. But you can't just always be every single movie. The stakes are save the universe, save the universe, save the universe. That starts to incur the law of diminishing returns, right? So I like the idea of them using certain movies to constantly change gears. And they've used Ant-Man for that. But yeah, it's a smaller scale movie without galactic implications that came right after Infinity War. And we're all still talking about Infinity War. So yeah, it does get a little bit lost in the wash, but it's a good movie. I don't think as good as the first Ant-Man, but it's a good little movie. All right, Damian Davies writes, I class the Lord of the Rings movie as a single film in 3 volumes, as the original book was meant to be a single book released in 3 volumes. Thought it's 3 different movies. I mean, it doesn't matter Well, the original intention of the first book is this. It doesn't matter. The movies were 3 different movies. Now, look, I also look at the original Star Wars trilogy as, like, when people ask me my top 10 movies of all time, in number 1, I say the Star Wars trilogy. I know those are 3 separate films, but I, for my own purposes, just kind of lump them together as one thing in 3 chapters. But it is 3 separate films. The Lord of the Rings are 3 separate films. And regardless of whether Tolkien's intention was to write them as one giant book and he did them as 3, the bottom line is there were 3 books, there were 3 movies. But I would certainly never hold it against you, Damien. If you did like what I do with the Star Wars trilogy, I perceive them and I lump them together as one thing when I'm talking about my top 10 movies of all time. The number 1 spot is taken up by all 3 of the original Star Wars films. I can't hold that against you if you do the same thing for Lord of the Rings. But I would suggest that as I do with the Star Wars, I still acknowledge they are completely 3 standalone individual films that all have one continuous story. You have to say the same with Lord of the Rings. They are one thing, but I would never hold it against you to look at them as one film. And as a matter of fact, by the way, in my top 10 list, when I get to Lord of the Rings, I just say the Lord of the Rings films. They don't take up 3 spots on my list. They only take up 1 spot, and I just say the Lord of the Rings films. So I can totally relate, but we still have to acknowledge they are 3 separate movies. That's just the way I look at it. All right. Terry Mosley just sends in a super chat. Thank you, Terry. Damian Davies follows up with, I love when Carrie Fisher cameos in a movie. My 3 favorites are Scream 3, Austin Powers, and Heartbreaker. I don't remember her Heartbreakers one. That's the one with Sigourney Weaver, right? Anyway, and Heartbreakers. Also liked her cameo in Smallville. I don't remember her cameo in Smallville either. But yes, I always got a kick when we would see Carrie Fisher pop up, because we didn't see her pop up a lot. Over the course of her life after Star Wars, we didn't see her pop up a lot. She didn't do a lot after that. I mean, we know there are several different reasons why, and we understand that, but, man, Damien, when we get to see her on screen, it's special and it's great and all that kind of stuff. I totally agree. Now I got to go on YouTube and say, what was her appearance in Smallville again? I just don't remember it. Now, as soon as we're done though, Damien, now I got to go on YouTube and look that up. Okay. Dylan Trost writes, final duel, Rey versus Kylo or Rey and Kylo versus someone? It's going to be Rey versus Kylo. No one's told me that. I'm just fan speculating like everybody else. But I do not believe there is a redemption arc for Kylo. I think he had that opportunity. That opportunity came and went. He's as bad as they come. He's a bad guy, period. And it's going to be Rey and Kylo is the big final duel. Both of them at their best. Both of them completely healthy. Unlike the first movie where Kylo was literally dying from a Chewbacca bowcaster blast in his body. So he was bleeding out. So this time it's going to be both of them at their best. Both of them completely healthy. And they're going to go into it and they're going to have a slobber knocker. And I think that's the way it's going to be. I mean, it's totally possible that they still have to combine their forces to take down an even bigger threat. That's a possibility. But my guess is going to be Rey versus Kylo. Let's see. Maya Demi writes, wonder what the Trolls narrative will be after the weekend in box office. Drop under 50% or 55%. For Captain Marvel, Disney bought seats again. Drop over 55%. Everyone hates this movie. Well, I've been predicting a 60% drop. Because whenever you get a movie that has this big of an opening, you're going to see a drop. You're going to see a significant drop. Now, let me just double check here. I'm going to look up Infinity War box office because I believe its second weekend drop was significant, right? Let's see here. So its second weekend. Yeah, its second weekend was a over 55% drop. The second weekend was over a 55% drop. I think Captain Marvel will have over a 55% drop. But there's nothing wrong with that. So if I look up, let me look up Guardians of the Galaxy. I believe it also had a pretty significant second weekend drop. Guardians of the Galaxy also had over a 55% drop. So there was that as well. Yeah, it is not uncommon. What about the second Avengers movie? Age of Ultron. I believe it had its second weekend drop was a 60% drop. And it's the second highest grossing comic book movie of all time. But it had a 60% second weekend drop. When your movie opens big, like a movie like Captain Marvel did, you're not going to get, or at least very rare. It happens, but it's not common. Usually what happens, though, you're going to get a bigger than 50% drop. And I expect a bigger than 50% drop. I expect a bigger than 55% drop. I expect about a 60% drop. That's why I'm guessing it's me. If it only drops 55%, that's remarkable. But I'm guessing it's going to have about a 60% drop, and that's still strong. That's still strong. Like if the second biggest comic book movie of all time, first of all, the biggest comic book movie of all time had over 55% drop. The second biggest comic book movie of all time had a 60% drop. I mean, then that seems like if Captain Marvel falls in that window, that's not bad. Anyway, Levi Road writes, except that I lost Levi Road. Where'd Levi Road go? Oh boy. Wow. Okay, here we go. Levi Road writes, people are saying Captain Marvel is too powerful. She went through a couple of ships. I didn't hear anybody complain about Hela, and she was super powerful. Oh yeah, no. Anybody who's complaining, either if you're complaining about how powerful Captain Marvel is, either number one, you've never read a comic book, because that's just how powerful Captain Marvel is. And number two, Thor came across as more powerful just because he got a new toy. You know, he gets this new axe. Great. Now I'm undefeatable. And he takes out Thanos with an infinity gauntlet in one shot. Thor didn't even have to fight Thanos. Think about this. Thanos, who was wiping everybody out, Thor shows up, doesn't even fight Thanos because, ooh, new toy? I'm the most powerful now. Suddenly Thor's got a new toy. And I'm not complaining about it. I'm just saying, I'm drawing the comparison. Thor shows up, oh, I got a new toy. Now I'm the most powerful being in the galaxy. What? Doesn't even have to fight Thanos. One-shot knockout. That's it. He just walked out, oh, Thanos, I'm here now. Bing! And Thanos is dead. Well, or at least was dying, had Stormbreaker buried in his chest. Thanos, fully powered, with a fully souped up, all the stones in place infinity gauntlet. Thor shows up, takes him down in one shot. Not even a fight. And people want to complain that Captain Marvel was overpowered? What? I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So, yeah, either number one, you're ignoring what's happened with other characters in the movies, or number two, you know nothing about the comic books because Captain Marvel is really, really powerful. And they showed her having a lot of power. And all she did was take out a couple of ships. I mean, that's all she did. It's not like she fought Hulk. It's not like she fought Thor. It's not like she fought Thanos. She took out a couple of space cruisers. Big deal. And by the way, and she fought some Kree and took some heavy shots fighting the Kree. She fought a bunch of the Star Force near the end, and she took a lot of heavy shots. She was getting, like, she was winning the fight, but she was also taking some ass beating at the same time. She was thrown across the room. She was like, all the different members of the Star Force got in good shots on her too. So I don't know where this thing of, oh, look, anybody who's complaining that she was overpowered was going to complain that she's overpowered no matter what she did in the movie. I mean, that's just the thing to me. Okay. Levi follows up with, Samuel L. Jackson in his 70s, wow, doesn't age. I've been saying this all along, Levi. Samuel Jackson turned 50. And then once he turned 50, he did a satanic ritual, sacrificed some baby kittens or something, and made a deal with the devil to stop aging. He turned 50 and just stopped aging. He looks incredible. Even these new behind-the-scenes photos of the upcoming The Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard he's doing with Ryan Reynolds and Selma Hayek look amazing. He looks great. It's crazy how great he looks. And remember at the Academy Awards when he presented to Spike Lee, Samuel Jackson's 71 years old. Spike Lee comes on stage and jumps up into Samuel Jackson's arms. Remember that? He jumped up into the arms of a 71-year-old man. Samuel Jackson's doing it right. Samuel L. Jackson is doing it right. Okay, Gabriel Reed writes, Not enough people are talking about Tony and Steve being under the same roof again. I can't wait for those two to talk to each other again. Chills. Dude, listen, that actually came up in, I think it was in our Captain Marvel spoiler review. That came up, no, it was in our Avengers Endgame theories video. That came up, and I said, no, more than anything else, that's what I'm looking forward to. I am looking forward, Gabriel, to that one event more than anything else in this movie. Like, these guys have been separated for years now, since the events of Civil War. We saw Tony was pulled out the phone and he was about to call Steve, and then Ma shows up in New York, and then the big battle ensues in Infinity War. We almost got it there. I've been waiting for this. I think dramatically, this is going to be like the peak moment of the MCU right now. Or at least up till now. I think this is going to be the most pivotal event in the MCU to now when Cap and Tony reunite. I cannot wait. I'm excited as hell for it. And it's the number one thing I'm looking forward to the most. Now, remember I was talking about how, oh my God, the idea of a Thor and Captain Marvel and Hulk all taking on Thanos or something like that. Like, yeah. But I'm still more looking forward to seeing Cap and Tony together again. I mean, who knows? Maybe this movie won't give us that. I'm thinking they will. And I cannot wait for that, Gabriel. All right. Ryan Lohner writes, Guillermo del Toro's Arcadia shows are on Netflix, are amazing, and starting to make their own MCU-level mythology worth checking out. I've heard some stuff about it. Never checked them out. I've never looked at them myself. But one of these, first of all, Guillermo del Toro, not everything Guillermo del Toro does is gold, but Guillermo del Toro brings he still has a 14-year-old boy's imagination. And I mean that in the best possible way. He brings a 14-year-old boy's imagination to almost all of his projects. And I love it. I love that he does that. It creates a sense of wonder to his movies and the project that he's involved in that I just love. And that by itself would probably make something like that worth checking out, Ryan. Thanks for the recommendation. All right, Apex writes, do you think that since Captain Marvel isn't invulnerable and can be hurt more easily than Supes, that the Russos can do a better job than Justice League versus Steppenwolf? I had no problem with what they did versus Steppenwolf. I had no problem with Superman versus Steppenwolf. Superman is the apex superhero. Period. Steppenwolf is not the apex supervillain. So I had no problem that Superman didn't have much of a hard time with Steppenwolf, because if he has a hard time with Steppenwolf, he ain't ever going to have any sort of a chance against Steppenwolf's boss. We all know who that is. Big DS, right? Superman is the apex superhero. So if the apex superhero has a hard time against a flunky, and let's face it, he's a glorified flunky, but that's what Steppenwolf is, then what's left for later? Like, if Batman has a hard time fighting one of the Joker's henchmen, then come on. Like, what is there? And Superman is not just another character. He is not just in the DCU, in all of comics, Superman is the apex superhero. He's it. So when he shows up, I expect that he should be able to dispatch a Steppenwolf, and he should be able to do it without too much trouble. Maybe he can't take care of everything all at once. We need the Justice League for that. But when it's him going toe-to-toe with a glorified flunky, he better be able to take care of that. So I had no problem with that. I had no problem with that whatsoever. Like, clearly when we saw Superman fighting a Doomsday, dude died, sorta. Dude died fighting Doomsday. And I think Doomsday would have wiped out Steppenwolf. So, yeah, they've made, like... So I have never understood that argument with that, but I think there are a lot of things that they have done great with Captain Marvel already, and I think there's some things that the Russo brothers can really do that would be kind of special with Captain Marvel as well. Now, what the overall plan is for her in this movie, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But I'm excited to see this character, Apex. I'm excited to see this character in the hands of the Russos. It's going to be kind of neat to see. All right, DC Patience writes, rewatch First Avengers. Tommy L. Jones is so funny. Oh, not the first Avengers, the first Avenger. Captain Marvel, Captain America. I keep getting the names mixed up. Captain America, the first Avenger is a tragically underrated movie, DC. Tragically underrated. And yes, Tommy Lee Jones was great in it. But yeah, a lot of people poo-poo on Captain America, the first Avenger. I think that movie's great. I think it is the third most underrated comic book movie ever. Most underrated is Man of Steel. Second most underrated is the original Thor. And the third most underrated is the original Captain America. I think that is a tragically underrated film. And yes, Tommy Lee Jones is hilarious in it. Mr. Hero writes, update on Cavill's Superman. There is no update. I don't know if they're going to have him in there again. He might be done. We'll have to wait and see. It sounds like he's done. And it sounds like they have no plans to do Superman again anytime soon. But as far as further updates, I haven't heard any further updates. You know we'll talk about it as soon as you do, because he's my all-time favorite Superman. Mason Kackman writes, most likely to happen first, an animated film winning Best Picture or an R-rated film making $1 billion at the box office. Well, with animated films, we went forever without having animated films nominated. And then we had one in Beauty and the Beast. Beauty and the Beast got nominated for Best Picture. But then we had a long chunk of years where we didn't have any more. Now we've had a couple more. Toy Story 4 got nominated. Toy Story 3, I should say, got nominated for Best Picture. Up got nominated for Best Picture. There were a couple of others that should have been. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse should have been nominated for Best Picture. But I'll say R-rated film making $1 billion at the box office. I'll go out and say the most likely that we'll get an R-rated film making big money at the box office. Again, it used to be that when you had R-rated films, you just had to accept they weren't going to be huge blockbuster hits. But that's not really the case anymore. We're getting bigger and bigger hits at the box office that R-rated are. So, yeah, and we've had a couple that have at least gotten into the same neighborhood. So I'm going to say, R-rated making $1 billion. I'll go with that. Krieger119 writes, Gunn news is a welcome gut punch to cancel culture. Gunn news is a welcome gut punch to cancel culture. I don't know what cancel culture is, Krieger, but I am with you that the Gunn news is welcome news. I loved hearing about that. With all the crap that I've given Alan Horn and Disney over the past 6 months, 8 months, 10 months, whatever, in how they handled that whole situation, I got to admit, I'm impressed that they decided to take a pie in the face, to eat a bit of crow and bring him back. I'm impressed. Give credit where it's due, because I've slung a lot of shit at Disney and at Alan Horn for how they handled and completely botched the whole James Gunn situation. But for them to stand up and do this, kudos. Kudos to them. That's impressive. I'm impressed. All right, Eric Saul writes, rewatching the Sopranos series, and this is truly the GOAT of all TV shows. Also, Livia is one of the best villains in TV history. There's a number of shows, Eric, that a lot of people want to put up when we're talking about greatest shows of all time. One that a lot of people will throw up there is The Wire. The Wire, in a lot of conversations amongst TV professionals, The Wire amongst TV pros tends to be one of the most acknowledged as maybe the greatest television show ever made. Then you definitely got a show like The Sopranos, which was crazy good. Then more recently, you have shows like Breaking Bad. A lot of people put that up there as well. I would want to throw into the conversation Ronald D. Moore's Battlestar Galactica. That's my all-time favorite show. My all-time favorite television show is Ronald D. Moore's Battlestar Galactica. I think it's the greatest show ever made. Then there are some people who are in kind of like a Lost category or whatever, but Sopranos is always at least minimum in the conversation. And now that we're getting to the end of Game of Thrones, Game of Thrones is going to be in that conversation. But yeah, you're going to get shows in the conversations like Sopranos, The Wire, Breaking Bad, Battlestar Galactica, Game of Thrones. These are going to be the shows in the conversation, but Sopranos is always in that conversation. All right. Hector Jeter writes, why is it so popular to still use the Wilhelm scream? It doesn't take me out of the movie when I hear it, but I do chuckle a bit. Well, the funny thing here, Hector, for those of you who don't know, the Wilhelm scream is this standard effect, audio effect. This, you just look up YouTube Wilhelm scream. It has been used 10,000 times in 10,000 different movies and television shows. It is a very popular sound effect that people use all the time. Sometimes at the forefront, sometimes in the background, but people just love using it, and it just blends, and most people never recognize it. Most people never recognize it, Hector. And even for all the times that you personally recognize it, there's probably 8 or 9 other times that you don't even realize it's there. But it's a popular one. Why? I don't know. I don't know if it's just considered Hollywood tradition or it's just a good, solid, reliable effect that people like to use. But yeah, if you guys aren't familiar with the Willem scream, just jump on YouTube and do a search for it, and then start listening for it in all of your favorite movies and TV shows, because chances are you're going to hear it. Thanks for bringing that up, Hector. All right. Ricardo Ramirez writes, what does Ricardo write? There he goes. Hey, John, hope you're having a great day. I am having a great day, Ricardo. Thanks for asking. Film recommendation. Amores Perros Loves Dogs, directed by Alejandro Gonzalez Inarritu, in my top 10 movies of all time. Hold a second. I want to look it up. What's it called here? Loves Dogs. Let's see. I can't find it on IMDb under its English name that you gave me. There it is. Okay, so it's an older film in 2000 by two-time Academy Award-winning director, by the way, Inarritu. And it's got it's got some good scores. I've never even heard of it, to be honest with you. This is weird. I've never even heard of this film. All right, man. Thank you, Ricardo. You've put this one on my list. Let me just bookmark this. Hold a second. Where to go? Okay, there we go. Bookmarked it. I'm going to try to give this one a chance pretty soon. All right, thanks for putting that on the list, Ricardo. Hector Jeter writes, excited to hear that you'll do a meet and greet in Vegas. The Yard House at Town Square is where the AMC is at. Please keep us posted on this. Great news. Actually, not every time I go to Vegas, but I'd say at least every other time that I go to Vegas, I go to that specific Yard House. That's right by the AMC. But what's the name of that whole shopping center? It's something Gardens or some whatever. I can't remember the name of the shopping center. But I've gone and eaten in that Yard House many times. I've gone and had drinks and eaten in that Yard House probably a good 15, 20 times. I love that Yard House. I think it's great. So yes, that's probably, now for those of you who don't know what Hector's talking about, CinemaCon is coming up. It's the most important major event in movies, even though you probably haven't even heard of it. But it's the most important one every year. And Robert and I are going to go to CinemaCon. It's the first week of April. So in the first week of April, the John Campea Show is going to look a little bit weird because it's going to be me and Robert doing the John Campea Show from a little webcam in my hotel room at Caesar's Palace and holding handheld mics and talking. So you'll have to bear with us. But we're going there for that. I think there's a chance I might be watching Endgame when I'm there. I think they're going to show Endgame at it. I don't know that. No one's told me that. But they showed Civil War at CinemaCon early there before. They showed Infinity War at CinemaCon early. I'm guessing they're going to show Endgame because at this year's CinemaCon, they're also awarding the Russo brothers the Director of the Year award at CinemaCon this year. So we've got a secret Disney screening that's happening at CinemaCon. They're highlighting and honoring the Russo brothers. I just really think they're going to show us Endgame, so I got to be there. So yeah, Robert and I are going to be there. And while we're in Vegas, we're going to set up a little meet and greet. So for any of you guys who are viewers that live in or around Las Vegas, in the first week of April, I'll let you guys know an actual date. Robert and I will probably just go to the Yard House, to the bar there. We're going to hang out at the bar and say, hey, if any of you guys are in Vegas and want to come have a drink with me and Robert, I'll be drinking Diet Coke because I don't drink alcohol, but want to come have a drink with me and Robert, that's where we'll be. Come and join us. So hope to see you there, Hector. All right. Jethro Owl writes, yeah, I trust Daly and Goldstein over an actor any day. I'm not quite sure what we're talking about here. Why do I not? That's not even ringing a bell for me. Hold on a second. Let me just see what we're talking about. Oh, you're talking. Oh, sorry. The guys who wrote, Homecoming, and the guys who directed Game Night, and yes. Oh, I agree. Completely agree. 100% agree. Daly and Golds, yes, they're actual filmmakers and writers and whatever. Yeah, now then again, they did that horrible Vacation movie, fine. But yeah, 100% I agree with you. By the way, in the midst of, these guys are supposed to be directing the new Flash movie. Why is Ezra Miller getting to dictate who writes the script? Shouldn't, like, if you've already got your directors on board, shouldn't they be giving some oversight to this? Are they no longer attached to this movie and we just haven't heard about it? It raises a lot of questions, Jethro. Okay. Run Amok Design writes, oh snap, it just occurred to me that Rocket and Groot never knew what happened to Gamora. Ooh, anything you realize from Infinity War much later. That's an interesting point. They never knew what happened to Gamora. Huh. That's a good question. Are there other things that happened in Infinity War, or at least that are implied and there are implications thereof from Infinity War that we didn't even realize or notice until much later? I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but I got a feeling I did. I just can't remember it right now. But that's a good one. That's a really good one, Run Amok. I like that one. I'll keep that in mind. I'll try to keep that in mind as I watch Infinity War again. Let's see. Andres Callisto writes, happy Austin 316 Day, John. Give me a hell yeah. And that's the bottom line. Because John Campea said so. Austin 316 Day. Didn't even think of it in those terms. I love Stone Cold Steve Austin. Or the Ringmaster, as he used to go by. I used to love, oh man. By the way, he's got a great podcast. You should listen to Stone Cold Steve Austin's podcast. Oh, by the way, guys, that reminds me. I can't believe I've been forgetting to do this forever. So, as some of you guys will know, me and Robert and Olympic gold medalist Cody Miller, we have now launched a brand new podcast. And our new podcast is called Best Movie, Worst Movie. That's our podcast right there. That's our little logo. It's called Best Movie, Worst Movie. It is now launched. It's available online and your favorite podcasting app. Just search for Best Movie, Worst Movie. If you can't find it, just search for my name, John Campea, and you'll probably come across it. Please go check it out, subscribe to it, comment on it, whatever. And the basic gist of Best Movie, Worst Movie is every week we take a topic and then we debate what is the best, or a category, and then we debate what's the best movie in that category and what's the worst movie in that category. And our first episode, which just launched, we launched it yesterday. A new episode is coming on Tuesday, but we launched with best and worst of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So both Cody and Rhodey and myself, Robert, give our picks for the best MCU movie ever made and then the worst one ever made. And we discuss and debate it. It's a lot of fun. It's called Best Movie, Worst Movie. We would love it if you could support it by going and finding it and subscribing to it. And yeah, we're looking forward to it. And I'm really excited about our next couple of ones, because the next couple of ones we're doing best and worst movies of 80s action movies and best and worst movies of the 2012 movies. So those are the ones we're going to be doing. Please go and check it out and support it. It would be great if you did. And yeah, hope to see you over there. Anyway, with that out of the way, let's keep moving on here. Pelican Mike says, is Cap the most beloved character in film right now? Oh, I don't know. I mean, like for a lot of people, like for me, Captain America is my absolute favorite character in the MCU. Nowhere near my favorite character in comic books, but in the MCU, he's my absolute favorite character. But he's not everybody's favorite. So that's a really good question, Pelican Mike. Is he the most beloved character? I don't know. I know he is to me, but I don't know if I can say that overall. It's an interesting question. You guys discuss it amongst yourselves in the chat board. Do you think he is like the most beloved character right now? It'd be interesting to hear your thoughts. Heated Penguin writes, thoughts on this conspiracy that Disney is buying tickets to Liba? Oh, this is an old one. If you believe it, you are a fucking moron. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. Heated, these people who are so desperate. First of all, they were so desperate to try to sabotage Captain Marvel. And then they were so desperate for it to fail. And the thing is, they've planted their flag in that. So when it turned out they failed miserably. And by the way, I have a theory that those people who are trying to sabotage Captain Marvel may have actually been on Marvel's payroll. That, you know, that maybe part of the reason for the success of Captain Marvel is the controversy. And it was all fake controversy. And it was all based on BS and lies and manipulation and all this kind of stuff. But I joked about it at first. I cannot help but wonder if Marvel knew that fake controversy and fake outrage that these people were endorsing and pushing. If Marvel knew that would help the movie, and I gotta believe that these people aren't so stupid that they don't realize that this whole fake controversy was absolute BS based on fabricated lies and spreading misinformation and all this kind of stuff. I just can't help but wonder if they were actually being paid off by Disney to do it. But at whatever rate. The thing is, these people were so desperate for it to fail and so wanted it to fail and worked so hard to try to make it fail that when it turned out to be a smash success, instead of just taking the L, what they decided to do is just go, and they start making up these excuses. Did you hear this other one too? That this one that they're trying to push this theory that Captain Marvel needs $750 million to break even. No, it doesn't. And that's not what the report said. You're misquoting it and you're not interpreting it correctly. No movie in history is needed to make $750 million, especially not a movie that had a $152 million budget. But there's that. So they're throwing out all these absolutely ridiculous notions to try to save a little bit of face. You know, look, when as a movie fan, I make a wild box office prediction like, I don't think Aquaman's going to make $1 billion, right? I don't think Aquaman's going to make it. No way. To be fair, I didn't even think Aquaman was going to make $800 million. It ain't just $1 billion. It's worse than that, folks. I didn't think Aquaman would make $800 million. So I missed by more than you think on Aquaman, right? So what do? Just say, well, I missed that one. I thought it was going to hit 800 million, let alone $1 billion, and it made 1.1 billion. Now, I talk about it all the time, but because that's all you can do, right? When in movie fans, look, I'm going to hit 80 to 90% of the things that I predict, but I'm going to miss 10 to 20% of the things that I predict. And when I predict and make guesses and assumptions, about 100 of them a day on my different shows, that means 10 to 20 of them I'm going to miss. So what am I going to do? Make excuses for it or just own it? Just go, poof, I missed that one. I didn't think Venom would make 800 million. Lo and behold, it made 800 million. There's nothing left for me to do but to own it. I missed. And so what these guys are doing now is instead of just owning it and saying, hey guys, we hate Captain Marvel and we wanted it to fail and it didn't. Oh well. So instead of just owning that, now come the wild excuses. Now comes it needs $750 million to break even. Now comes the Disney's falsifying the numbers. First of all, Disney doesn't put out the numbers. Okay. I have a video that explains on my YouTube channel how box office numbers get reported. You can go find that on my YouTube channel. But at any rate, now come these wild, desperate, pathetic attempts to save a little bit of face, saying, oh, Disney buying all the tickets themselves. No, they're not. No, they're not. Anyway, first of all, Disney doesn't give a flip if the box office numbers look good or not. All Disney cares about is if the box office numbers are good, because that means money for them. They don't care about the optics. They really don't give a shit about the optics at all. If they gave a shit about the optics, they would have bought a bunch of tickets for Nutcracker, which flopped horribly, and it was a bad movie. If they cared about the optics, they would have falsified numbers for A Wrinkle in Time, which flopped and was a bad movie, but they didn't. I mean, so anyway, it's just gotten to this point now that's not just sad anymore. Now it's just pathetic, and they just need to stop. Just stop. Anyway, that's just my thought on it. Okay, let's move on here. Hector Jeter writes, Aladdin theory. All what we've heard from Jafar was him talking to Aladdin. Possible that he's disguising his voice. He did disguise himself in the OG, in the original. He didn't really disguise himself. Not really. So no, I think that's the actor's voice. I think that's how he sounds. Now, like if they do in the original, if they transform him into a genie as well, maybe his voice changes when he turns into a genie. But other than that, I don't think they're hiding his voice or anything like that. I just think this is what it sounds like. And again, look, a lot of us complain that the Jafar in the trailer doesn't sound menacing at all. And he doesn't. But let's keep in mind, it is just a small sample size. Maybe once we see it, it'll come across very differently once we see it in a more full context. But yeah, right now it just doesn't sound menacing. But let's see how it plays out in the movie. CMJ World writes, maybe Rocket can hook Fury up with a new eye. Somebody else mentioned that the other day on the show. Like, what are the odds that at some point... But by the way, I don't think Samuel L. Jackson is in Endgame. I don't think he is. I hope he is, but I don't think he is. Anyway, somebody else put out the guess that Rocket and Samuel Jackson will meet, and Rocket will say, hey, I've got another one of these, and gives him an eye. That would be kind of funny. Krieger119 writes, spoiler, the dust on Cap's face is Tony Stark. Because, yeah, in that shot in the Endgame trailer, Cap's face is all dirty. The dust on Cap's face is Tony Stark. Nice. I like that one. Roman Bryant writes, better villain, Scar or Loki? Ooh. Oh. It all depends about what's your criteria. Better character? Loki, because of all the things I talked about earlier today, about all the motivations, the layers to him, all that kind of stuff. The better character? Loki. Better villain? I might go Scar on that. I need more time to think about it, but I think overall better character is Loki, but maybe strictly the better villain, maybe Scar. Scar's great. Anyway, I'm Upset writes, who's having the worst offseason, Steelers or Giants? Steelers. Because Giants were terrible already. I mean, how do they get any worse? They were terrible. Even with Odell Beckham, they were terrible. So how much worse can it get? Not much. The Steelers were good, and they've taken some big steps backwards. But hey, let's see what happens. Maybe they can come out stronger than ever. Kevin Zaragoza writes, oh, nothing, just sends a super chat. Thank you, Kevin. Chris Madsen writes, I swear I saw Captain Marvel teleport like Thanos right before she hit the ground and come flying out of the portal. Her power is from the Tesseract after all, or my eyes playing tricks. I'm not going to say your eyes playing tricks, Chris, because is that a possibility? It's a possibility. I don't think she did. I think she just hit into the ground and that's fine. I think she hit and cratered in the ground and it just didn't do anything. She totally took it like a champ and she rebounded and she was fine. So, but could it be that she was able to open up a portal? Maybe, but why do that and not like clearly show it? Like if you're trying to show off the power of Captain Marvel, why would you not show that? And then we don't see her execute that any other time in the rest of the film. So I'm going to guess no, because like then at the end, ooh, I can't say, we're going into spoiler stuff now. So I got to be careful what I say. But just let me just say that I don't think so, but it's a possibility. Because you're right. I mean, your theory is sound, but I don't think she opened a portal. I don't think she did. Because again, it would seem to me that if you're going to show off her power, show it off. Don't hide it. So I don't think so. But maybe I'm wrong. Dylan Trost writes, we had no reason to question Palpatine's power in the original trilogy because the universe was being established. It wasn't strange that he existed. Now, since we know so much about the universe and what it requires to get Palpatine's status, Snoke just popping up does seem abrupt, require an explanation. Yet, no, I disagree. I don't think, because everything we needed to know, here's my argument, Dylan. Everything we needed to know about Snoke, we knew. We didn't need to know anything else. For the purposes of the story to progress, we didn't need to know anything else about Snoke. Much like in the original Star Wars trilogy, we didn't need to know anything else about Palpatine. You got to remember, when we sat down and watched the first Star Wars trilogy, when we all saw that for the first time, there was the big bad guy behind the shadows. We just knew he was big, we knew he was bad, and we knew he was powerful. And that's all we knew. All the way through to the end of Return of the Jedi, that's all we knew. Why? Because we didn't need, for the purposes of the narrative, we didn't need to know anything else about him. We didn't need to know where he came from. We didn't need to know how he became emperor. We didn't need to know how he became a Sith in the first place. We needed to know nothing for the purposes of the story they were telling. Fast forward now to the new films. What do we need to know about Snoke in order for the stories to progress? Nothing more than they've told us. I would submit they've told us more about Snoke than they told us about Palpatine in the original trilogy. We don't need to know anymore. All we need to know for the purposes of the narrative that's going on is that he's big, he's bad, and he's powerful. Much like that's all we needed to know for Palpatine in the original trilogy. Snoke is not the focus of the new movies, much like the Emperor was not the focus of the original trilogy. You don't need to waste screen time giving unnecessary information on the background of a character that when that information doesn't come into play for your narrative, much like the same way they handled the Emperor in the original trilogy. So no, I disagree. I disagree that we should have known more about Snoke. I disagree that we needed to know anything more about Snoke. For the purposes of the story, we knew exactly how much we needed to know. And they don't have to sit down and do a lexicon kind of breakdown of every single character that we come across. We didn't know more about Maz Kanata either. We only knew enough about Maz Kanata that we needed to know for the purposes of the story. How do you pronounce his name? Unkar Plot? We don't know what the background to Unkar Plot is, but we only knew as much as we needed to know in as so far that it served the story. And with Snoke, there was simply no necessary reason that we had to know any more. Now, again, that's just my opinion as one film fan sitting down and watching the movie, but any extra information about Snoke would have been pointless. It would have been for no other person than to satisfy a little bit of our curiosity and a little bit of trivia. But as far as the narrative of the movie goes, it was completely pointless and unnecessary, so they didn't engage in it. That, again, that's just my opinion as a film fan. That's how I reacted to it when I was watching it. And again, there is really no material difference between the way they use Snoke here and the way they use the Emperor in the original trilogy. So that's just the way I see it. All right. Hashtag Squad Productions writes, TWD is, The Walking Dead. You should look at a pic. Okay, The Walking Dead. Oh, so you're talking about Hearst being in Walking Dead. No, I didn't even know he was in Walking Dead. I had no idea. I have not watched the show at all this year. I've had little to no interest in watching the show this year, so I haven't seen a thing of it. But thank you for clarifying, hashtag. I appreciate that. It is interesting to know that Ope is in Walking Dead. There we go. Kevin Zaragoza writes, do you think the Dusted Avengers will just magically reappear at the end of the movie, or are they trapped somewhere and we don't know? No, I don't believe they're trapped here. I believe they're dead. See, one of the theories that I really disagree with is that Thanos didn't kill everybody. He just magically teleported them to a different place. There is nothing in the movies to support that. Everything that was said and communicated in the movies was Thanos wiping people out. And this would be a major plot hole. If Thanos was just taking everybody in the universe and moving them to a different place, why wouldn't Thanos just, whoa, everybody, stop fighting against me. I'm not killing anybody, okay? I'm not here to kill anybody. But the universe has finite resources, so I'm going to take half the people in the universe and just move them. We're just going to relocate them to a different place where they can be happy and we'll be happy. But that's not what Thanos did. Everything communicated in these movies was Thanos killing everybody. So no, I don't believe they're trapped. Now, as far as do I think they'll just reappear, who knows? Again, we don't know if they're going to unsnap. We don't know if the snap's going to get undone. Or whether this is going to be merging of a different reality. Or if it's going to be a matter of time travel reversing things. I just don't know. So at this point, I have no idea. I don't know if reality itself gets reset. So I just don't know. But that's one of the great things about it, isn't it, Kevin? That we don't know. And we're going to get to go in this movie. And we're just going to get to see it. And however they come back, it's going to, well, all we do know is that they're coming back. Whether they appear, undust, a different reality starts again, and they're just happen to be there already. I mean, I don't know. But we do know where they're coming back. But that's where our knowledge ends. And I'm kind of excited about that. All right. Hashtag writes, who's your favorite Gotham character? Well, I mean, really, it's Gordon. The only time Gotham has ever worked for me is when the show was about Gordon and the crime in Gotham. Whenever they tried to be a Batman light show, it ain't Batman, it's Batman light. Whenever they tried to make Gotham a Batman light show, didn't work for me. Never worked for me. That's why, to me, Gotham's been a hit and miss show. And when it has worked for me really well is when it was about James Gordon and Gotham. When that happens, it works for me. So I'm going to say that my favorite character is James Gordon. Dan M. writes, an empire toppled by its enemies can rise again, but one which crumbles from within, that's dead forever. I love that line. That was from Zemo in Civil War. It is a great line. I quite frankly found Zemo to be a very underwhelming villain. That was one of my criticisms of Civil War, and I love Civil War. But one of the things that I thought was a weakness, I never bought into Zemo. I thought he was actually a rather inconsequential character to the movie. And everyone said, but John, it's all because of Zemo. Actually, it's kind of not. And I break that down a different way. But anyway, we can have that debate another time. But yeah, you're right. That line, though, is amazing. An empire toppled by its enemies can rise again, but one that crumbles from within is dead for. It's a great line. It's an absolutely great line. Mista47 writes, Widow, you should sit this one out, Cap. These men are basically gods. Cap, there's only one God, ma'am, and I'm pretty sure he doesn't dress like that. One of the great, I think that was the moment for me in the first Avengers movie that I just went, this movie is awesome. There's only one God, ma'am. I'm pretty sure he doesn't dress like that. It was so true to Captain America. You know, it was such a Captain America thing to say. Such a great line. It was that moment to me that I went, oh my God, this movie's great. And that was early on. And it just kept ramping up from there. But you're right, man. I love that line. Levi Road writes, I think Jennifer Lawrence is a great actor, but I feel like all her movies where she's the lead are not successful at the box office. They fail, and I feel like her salary is not worth it. Thoughts? I'd like to introduce you to a little film franchise called The Hunger Games. So yeah, I'd like to introduce you to a little film series called The Hunger Games, which made a hell of a lot of money, and she was the lead in it. Now, as far as the other film she's a lead in, she doesn't go and lead traditionally big box office heavy movies. That's not what she traditionally does. Like, let's run down a list here in a second. There we go. Okay. So these are not movies that are meant to be big blockbusters, right? When you're looking at Mother, not intended, that movie was never going to be a big blockbuster movie. Okay. So there's that. Joy, which is great. Well, really good. Maybe not great. Joy, never designed to be, that movie's never going to be a big blockbuster movie, no matter who you have in the lead, right? So that was never going to be there. Serena, never intended to be a big, massive blockbuster movie. American Hustle. I mean, that was really more Christian Bale's movie, but still never designed to be a big monster blockbuster movie. Silver Linings Playbook. Never designed to be a big major blockbuster movie. It's not like Jennifer Lawrence starred as Supergirl and that flopped. It's not like Jennifer Lawrence starred in, a new Star Wars movie and it flopped. It's not like Jennifer Lawrence starred in she's the new Batwoman in the DCEU and it flopped, right? No, she's been leading these drama pieces that are designed just to they make a certain amount of money and they can be profitable because they're generally lower budget, but she takes actors' roles. She doesn't take blockbuster roles per se. The one that could have done better was Red Sparrow, but quite frankly, that movie wasn't all that great. I thought Jennifer Lawrence was great in it, but the movie wasn't all that great. Bottom line is this. If you take Joy, Serena, Silver Linings Playbook, Mother, it doesn't matter who you put in those roles, that movie wasn't going to make all that much. Those movies were made for the art of movies. They weren't really made to be giant blockbusters. They wanted to be profitable, And sure enough, they were. Or at least many of them were. Some of them weren't. But they were never designed to be big blockbusters. That's like saying, Meryl Streep. So you pay the actress. Gone are the days that the actor's name is what brings out people to the box office now. There's basically only one name that does that right now, and that's Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. You're paying an actor for how good of an actor you think they are. Because if the better the actor, the better your movie will be. And the more elevated it will be. I mean, a great actor is not going to turn a bad movie into a good movie, but it will heighten the movie. Jennifer Lawrence is one of the best actresses in the world. So she demands a paycheck consistent with the fact that she's going to be one of the best doing it. Does hiring her guarantee X amount of box office? No, but there's no actress on the planet that you could hire that would guarantee X amount of box office. There's no actress on the planet that does that. And there's no actor on the planet other than maybe Dwayne Johnson right now that does that. So you don't base your salaries on that. So no, she is one of the best. As one of the best, she deserves one of the best salaries that actresses get. It's just that simple. And if she takes lower, she takes lower. She takes higher, she takes higher. If she wants to take, she can't expect to make $15 million in a movie that has a $9 or $10 million budget. So you got to adjust your expectations and everything. But again, the bottom line though here is, Levi, is that the movies that she has headlined have never been designed to be big blockbuster movies. So it's not like you can say Jennifer Lawrence doesn't get out box office. Well, I mean, it's just that she does heavily dramatic roles for films that are designed to make $100 million, not meant to make, that are designed to make $10 million, not necessarily $100 million or $500 million or $700 million. You know what I mean? So that would be my retort. It's an interesting question you bring up, but that would be my response to that. Okay. Jeremy Green writes, I still get chills when Thor enters Wakanda. Oh, such a great scene, Jeremy. And by the way, Jeremy, thank you. That's a very generous super chat. Thank you so much for putting that in there, man. I appreciate that. Thank you for supporting the channel. I still get chills when Thor enters Wakanda and the music plays. New subscriber and love your work. Thank you so much, Jeremy. I appreciate that. That moment. Look, Infinity War has a number of moments that you could classify as your holy shit moments, right? It's got a number of those moments in it. But the one that I constantly hear every time I went to go see it in theaters, and I saw it many times in theaters, what consistently got the biggest pop, what consistently got the biggest oh shit moment from the audience was Thor showing up in Wakanda. When Thor arrives from Wakanda and the audience, every audience I was in, like the audience goes crazy when he shows up in Wakanda and the camera flashes over to Bruce in the Hulkbuster armor. You guys are screwed now. I mean, I'm getting goosebumps and hair standing up on my arm, folks. I'm getting massive goosebumps right now just thinking about that scene. It's incredible and absolutely puts a massive smile on her face. And thank you for becoming a subscriber, Jeremy, by the way. And we look forward to having you around here in our little film fan community here. So thanks a lot for that. But yeah, man, great scene in that movie. All right. Andrew Hogue writes, do you think we could see a scene we saw in Infinity War and Endgame from a different perspective? Possible. It's not like that's the most unused of any movie devices or plot devices they've done in movies recently, like taking a movie, taking a scene from one movie in the franchise, replaying it out in another one from a different perspective. Hell, we were just talking about the Fast and Furious franchise, right? The Han dying in the car wreck scene, transpose that now with Jason Statham. I mean, so yeah, it's possible. It's hard to say if that's even necessary when we haven't seen the movie yet. So possible? Yeah. Likely? I don't know. I don't know how likely, but it's definitely something they could do. All right. Now I'm just going to let you guys know, I've only got a few minutes left here. I know we've kind of been going 2.5 and 3 hours long on our weekend open mics, but today I actually have to go out of town and I have to leave like within the next 17 minutes or so. So I need to end the show in just a couple of minutes so I can get ready to go. But don't worry, guys. I will take any unused super chat questions we have here, and I will do them in a companion video tomorrow. And because I still have to do my companion video from Friday's show. It's been a very busy weekend for me, but I have to do my companion videos from Friday anyway. So I'll take whatever leftover questions we have here right now, and I will merge them with the ones from Friday, and I'll do one big companion video tomorrow night. So we'll go into Monday all cut up. So if you've sent in a question or still want to send in a question to, feel free. Just know that there's going to be a few questions I'm not going to get around to today, but I will address them in a video tomorrow. So just keep your eyes open for that. Okay, let's move on here. Ben Rayner writes, news Peyton Reed will direct Adam movie for DC. Oh, wouldn't that be funny? He does Ant-Man, now he does Adam. That would be funny if that actually happened. But now that we got James Gunn doing Suicide Squad, I mean, basically Suicide Squad is DC's version of Guardians of the Galaxy in a way, right? This eclectic, weird mashup of characters that make one team. So yeah, why not? Peyton Reed directing Ant-Man, Peyton Reed directing Adam. All right. Ryan Lohner writes, I meant you said there wasn't much movie news, and then yes. Then later in the day, the James Gunn, that was crazy. I was sitting downstairs eating my lunch after doing the John Campea Show, and I popped on an episode, I think, of usually when I eat lunch, I sit downstairs, make myself lunch, and watch one episode of something before getting back upstairs and getting back to work. So I'm sitting down there, and Black Lightning ends. So I'm caught up on Black Lightning. And I finish my lunch, take my dishes, put them in the dishwasher, all that kind of stuff. Then I look at my phone, and I'm getting all these messages on Instagram. James Gunn rehired. I'm like, what? Is this coming from like a Reddit screenshot or something? But nope, it was in Hollywood Reporter, Deadline, Variety. It was legit. And I'm like, oh my God, we got to talk about this. And then I jumped online and we did a live video yesterday. But yeah, that was not a lot of new movie news today, guys, on Friday. So we'll talk about some other topics. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the James Gunn news hits. That was crazy. All right. MVP Music Video Previews writes, I'm convinced the reason they did not show the battle on Xandar is because it's the Avengers/Thanos final in Endgame. Couldn't think of a more climactic ending than with the Nova Corps and the Black Order, and then the Avengers show up to join the fight to prevent Thanos from getting the first stone, maybe even saving the life of Richard River, Nova/Tutu. Okay, first of all, let me say this. I love that you're thinking outside of the box like that. I love that you're thinking outside of the box like that. But I'm going to disagree. I'm going to disagree here, MVP. And here's why I'm going to disagree. It kind of goes back to like what we were talking about with the Snoke stuff with whatever. Was it necessary for the movie, for the narrative of the movie? Was it necessary to do these scenes? Remember, this was a movie that was already over. My one criticism of Avengers Infinity War was that you can feel the overweightness of it. There is a little bit too much crammed into that movie. Too many characters, too many different side stories, on and on and on and on. And you can feel the movie, they hold it together, but you can feel it bursting at the seams a bit, right? Remember that one great scene in the one Monty Python sketch where that huge, like 800-pound guy is sitting down eating dinner and he keeps eating and eating and eating and he's like huge, like obesely huge. And then the waiter come by, would you like a mint? And he's, no, I'm stuffed. Please, sir, just one little mint. It is so refreshing. Fine. And he eats the one mint and his body blows up, right? That's kind of a little bit of what Avengers Infinity War felt like to me. It's great. I love you guys know I love Infinity War, but you could feel it like one more mint was just going to make the whole thing collapse on itself. They held it together. They did a great job with it, but it was a little overstuffed. There was no need to show Thanos attacking Xandar. There was no need for it. You were able to accomplish everything you needed in a quick 3-second line from Thor to the Guardians. Thanos decimated Xandar last week and got the one stone. There, that's all you needed to know. That's all we needed to know. There was no, and there's plenty of action in the movie already. So it's not like Avengers Infinity War, you know, we really need another action sequence. There's tons of action sequences in the movie. From a narrative storytelling point of view, there was just no need to show, from any dramatical point of view either, there was no need to show Thanos attacking Xandar. It just wasn't necessary. As far as the narrative point of it, all you needed was Thor going, yeah, last week, Thanos attacked Xandar, decimated Xandar to get the Power Stone. There. Just like that, we knew everything. To cram a narratively unnecessary scene like Thanos attacking Xandar into the movie would have been like stuffing that extra mint into the guy in the Monty Python sketch. I think it just could have been the last straw on the camel's back and just way overweighted the movie. It didn't need it. Didn't have to be there. So again, I like the way you're thinking. I especially like the way you're kind of now projecting onto how this might play out in Endgame, that maybe we see that now in Endgame. But honestly, I think the reason we didn't get it in Infinity War was because it wasn't needed, and it would have made an already stuffed movie overstuffed to the point that maybe the film just collapses on itself. So that's how I see it. But I do like the way you're kind of taking this one and seeing how it applies to the next movie. That's where good theories come from, is when you think outside the box like that. So I like where your head's at, MVP. All right. Let's see. Just going to take a couple more questions today, and then I got to wrap up because I'm already running a bit late. I'm going to have to get going here. Jaron Morris writes, to me, the best introduction was Death in Supernatural. Oh, I loved Death in Supernatural. The first Death got chills when Jen Titus, Death played, and he killed a guy with just a bump, and then that epic conversation with him and Dean for the first time. That conversation, what was it? Wasn't it over pizza or something? Was it in a pizza shop? I'm trying to remember the scene exactly. It was either in some kind of pizza shop or a pie shop or something. That dude who played Death was great. And that scene between Death and Dean, Jaron, one of the greatest scenes in television history. I love that scene. By the way, I also love the scene when they kill Death, which ultimately is the last seal and it releases Amara from her prison. But that scene was great too. I loved him as Death. He's just got such a cool screen presence about him, and the way it all plays out, it's fun, and he's scary as hell at the same time. But I remember there one line that just like the profoundness of that scene, Jaron, is really wrapped up in this one big line that when Death suggests that he was around before God. And then the line that really made me go, whoa, this is heavy stuff. When Death is talking about how eventually he reaps everybody. And then they talk about God, and he goes, someday I'll reap him too. It's like it's just, the scene was insane. The scene was insane, and it was deep, and it was powerful and creepy, and it's just, one of the greatest moments in supernatural history. I'm not going to put it up there and say it's the best, Jaron, but it ranks right up there, and I get excited just even thinking about it. So thank you for reminding me of that scene. All right. 3 more questions, then we're going to wrap it up here. Mixed Bag Clips writes, choose. Can only see one movie, Episode 9 or Endgame? Episode 9. Episode 9. What can I say? I'm a Star Wars guy. So Episode 9. Now, which movie do I anticipate will be the better movie? At this point, I'm kind of anticipating that Avengers Endgame will be the better movie. But I'm a Star Wars guy to my DNA. So, yeah. And remember that question you asked me earlier, that somebody asked me earlier about if I had the option of, I could have a one-on-one private dinner with Jennifer Garner, but to do so means never seeing Endgame. Would I take that deal? I'd say, yeah, I'd take that deal, because there have been 23 after Far From Home comes. There will have been 23 Marvel movies. There'll be 23 more. If there's one I don't see, I can live with that. But that Jennifer Garner thing is a once-in-a-lifetime thing. If the deal was either that dinner with Jennifer Garner or Star Wars Episode 9, it's a Star Wars film. I got to go Star Wars Episode 9. All right, Django19 writes, just saw Good Will Hunting for the first time. Excellent movie. Excellent movie. What a powerful movie, especially the scene with Williams hugging Damon. It's not your fault. It's just over and over again. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. And finally the character starts to break down. Beautiful scene. It's the movie that finally won Robin Williams his Academy Award. They'd won Ben Affleck and Matt Damon the Academy Award for Best Screenwriting because they won for screenplay for that. It is Minnie Driver is fantastic in it. It's a fan-freaking-tastic movie. And there's still a lot of people who haven't watched it, Django, so I'm so glad you brought that up because, guys, watch Good Will Hunting. It's so good. Robin Williams will blow you away. Ben Affleck will blow you. Matt Damon will blow you away. Minnie Driver will blow you away. Oh, I love Minnie Driver. Anyway, such a great scene. And you're right, Django. That scene, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. So strong. So strong. It might have been the scene that pushed Robin Williams over the edge to get that Academy Award too. So I'm with you, man. Just fantastic movie. All right. Final question I'm going to take today here comes to us from Eric Saul, who writes, getting my dad into the MCU, nice. And while watching Civil War, when Tony says, I don't care, he killed my mom, total gut punch of a line, by the way, I hear my dad say, damn right, he's definitely Team Stark. Well, I mean, here's the funny thing. First of all, Eric, that's great that your dad's getting into the MCU. I compare that scene to Star-Lord punching, everybody blames Star-Lord for what happened in Infinity War because he punched Thanos in the face. That's not what the problem was. But at any rate, I compare those two scenes because rationally, Stark knows that it wasn't Bucky's fault. Bucky's the one who killed his mom and dad, but it wasn't his fault. He was a victim too. And rationally, we as the audience can sit there and we know that. It wasn't Bucky's fault. But we're human beings. And that's why I think that line was perfect. I don't care. He killed my mom. I mean, and I would think that probably a week later, a month later, a year later, when calmer heads have prevailed, Tony probably realizes, okay, it's not him. He was taken against his will. He was a victim. He was brainwashed. He was controlled and he was manipulated. And as a result, they used him to kill my parents, but it wasn't his fault. I'm sure he realizes that later. But in the moment, we're human. And Tony's human. And his only thought was, I don't care. He killed my mom. Powerful and wonderful. And I compare that scene a lot to the scene in Avengers Infinity War because, yes, logically, hey, look, you punch this guy in the face right now, you might break the trance and we may lose our chance to beat him. But he's human. He's just found out maybe the only woman he's ever loved, this guy killed her. And he just found that out right now. He didn't just find out that he killed her. He just found out she's dead and that he killed her. Tony's known his parents were dead for forever. He's known his parents were dead for years. He was only dealing with, you're the guy that did it? Star-Lord was dealing with both at the same time. Just finding out Gamora's dead and finding out that he's the one that did it. He's only human. If he had a chance to sit down, take a few breaths and think about it, yeah, I probably shouldn't punch him in the face right now. But that's not what a human being is going to do in that moment. So I actually compare those two situations to each other a lot. Yeah, there's the rational thing, but being human beings sometimes mean in the heat of a moment, we don't always do the rational thing. And I think that's what happened with Tony. And I think that's what happened with Star-Lord. And that's why I kind of equate the two. All right, guys, listen, from Sempaigar, Kevin, Dan, Caleb, and Bats, and Daniel, and everybody else all the way down who we still have outstanding Super Chat questions to get to, do not worry. I'm going to gather up all these questions, and I'm going to put them in tomorrow's, what do I call these things? Companion videos. I'm going to put them in tomorrow's companion video. Keep your eyes open for that. We've gone almost 2. Isn't it weird that we've gone almost 2 full hours? And lately, that's a short one. That's a short one for an open mic. But yeah, My apologies. I do have to cut today a little bit short because I need to go out of town. But we're going to do another open mic tomorrow. I'll be back in time tomorrow afternoon to do another open mic. We'll get through all those, and then we'll do a companion video getting to all the ones we didn't have time for. So keep your eyes open, guys, for those questions. Special thank you to all you guys who did send in questions, not only for giving us great topics to talk about, but for also supporting the channel, and I appreciate that deeply. And I appreciate being a part of this film fan community that you guys allow me to be a part of with you. And thank you for letting me try out this new mic. I love testing out new gear, and I thought I'd just do it here on a live show. So thank you for letting me do that, guys. All right, everybody, that will do it for me. Gonna go hang out with some family right now. Thank you so much for being here. We'll be back again tomorrow. My name's John Campea, and until that next video, bye-bye.